Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. The newspapers are in. I'm joined now by the former editor of the Sunday Express and my former colleague at The Sun, David Wooding. David, good evening to you. Thanks for your company. Big story on the front page of your old paper here, an exclusive. Britons living in fear for the economy. So 15%, David, think the Chancellor is doing a good job. 85% think she's not. 67% are against axing the winter fuel payment. And the depth of public fear about the state of the economy, with nearly half expecting unemployment to go up and fewer than 1 in 10 thinking it will fall, has been laid bare. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is more woe for Rachel Reeves in a poll by Ipsos. And it shows that she's probably the least popular Chancellor since Kwasi Kwarteng, who, of course, delivered that disastrous budget when Liz Truss was Prime Minister for just a few days, which led to his being sacked by the Prime Minister, who followed him out the door not long afterwards. So actually, this is really bad because we've got a new government in with a massive majority, and everything seems to have gone wrong when everything was right for them when they got in there. And Rachel Reeves is... There's three things which are causing a trouble here. One is the winter fuel payment. And it says, as you say in the poll, Ben, that 2/3 of people think that was a bad move. I don't know who the third are who think it wasn't a bad move. Anybody with a political antenna could have told you, don't take money off pensioners. It looks bad, it looks heartless, and also pensioners go out and vote. And of course, in the last few days, Ben, she's had problems with sexing up her own CV, some suggestions that she over-egged what she'd done in the past, saying she was an economist when she was really Rachel from accounts, that she worked for the Bank of England for a decade when it was just barely 5 years. And of course, now we've got this latest story cracking her on the last few days that she was investigated for some kind of expenses anomaly, which of course she denies knowing anything about it. But these things are coming out, and all of this is a toxic mix which is putting the skids under her. And this report suggests that there are some cabinet ministers who are now admitting that the Chancellor is in the danger zone. That means Keir Starmer's in the danger zone too, because to kill off somebody, to sack somebody who is inextricably linked with himself and his own leadership would be a very, very bad move. But how long can he carry on with this?
Well, also, Dave, great points. Also, he's backed her as recently as a few days ago over the CV situation, saying, no, I've got full confidence. So it puts him into a bit of a corner as well. I'll introduce you to my panel now. Some of them you know. Linda Jubilee, Paul Richards, the former Labour Special Advisor, and Peter Blexley, former Met Police Detective. Who wants to go first? Linda?
I'll go. So, David, long time no see.
Nice to see you.
So do you think, in communication terms, that this situation is perilously close to bleeding out? And by that I mean there's just too many things going wrong at the moment. What do you think the chances are that she will survive perhaps until the autumn statement, but then will be quietly moved away from her post?
You see, whatever you do, removing a Chancellor, and if you look back historically with the likes of Nigel Lawson and other big sackings, to sack the Chancellor is a massive, massive move. Gordon Brown had and Tony Blair had massive fallouts behind the scene, but Tony Blair knew that to remove Gordon Brown would be doubly damaging to himself. So the problem is for Keir Starmer, does he struggle on with Rachel Reeves there, or does he pull the rug from underneath her, leave her as an enemy on the back benches, and who does he put in her place? I mean, there's been a lot of praise for her deputy, who seems to be a good performer on television. But Rachel Reeves people voted Labour on the joint ticket of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. All those polls said, who do you think was better for the economy? They name the Tory two, and they say Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. And they were the two people who were elected as a joint ticket. So really, to fire shots at Rachel Reeves would be shooting himself in the foot in many ways. So I think he'll try and struggle on with her, but there will come a stage, if any more damaging moments arise, that he's going to have to make a really serious call on that. But for now, I think he'll struggle on.
All right, David, here comes the cavalry. It's former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. Paul, what's your questions for David?
Well, I think she's safe as houses, actually, because the way she is being judged is on the performance of the economy. And we saw this week, didn't we, David, that the economy is now improving, and that's how she should be judged. All else is froth, and all this Rachel from Account stuff, I think, is absolutely disgusting misogyny directed at her from people who are just engaging in a hit job. The way we should judge our Chancellor of the Exchequers is, can they deliver? And at the moment, there are the green shoots of growth there. And surely that's the thing, is it not, David, that she should be judged on?
No, of course, that's what's going to happen. The problem is that all the things that the Labour Party are doing now will have to pay dividends in 3 or 4 years. That's absolutely right. So if they've got everything right now, then they'll be all right in a couple of years' time. And that's where Keir has put all the money on the chips on that particular move. And yes, Rachel must be keeping her fingers crossed that that's going to work. On your point about Rachel from Accounts, I realise you're a Labour man, and you know, as a non-aligned, straight down the middle journalist, my view is she gets it in the same way that the Tories got it when they were in power. You know, they lettuce Liz Truss, for instance. You know, it's not that was that misogynistic? I don't think so. I think a lot of the Labour people were all revelling in that one at the time. So, you know, Rachel's in power, and I think she's a big girl and she knows how to take it.
Yeah. David Wooding, great stuff. Thank you for your company. Really appreciate it. And on that mic drop, Paul Richards, were you protesting when Liz Truss was being... She still is bullied now, I'd argue she's bullied. Calling her, you know, lettuce Liz and so on and so on. Very quickly.
Well, she tanking the economy and Rachel's growing the economy.
OK, so it's OK to call Rachel Liz Truss lettuce Liz, but not Rachel from
But that's not misogynistic,
is it? Got double standards, I understand.
No, not at all.
Stick with us, back in just a tick. Keir Starmer set to join Europe Crisis Summit on Trump-Ukraine plan. Emmanuel Macron is calling for an urgent talk tomorrow. And in Saudi Arabia next week, the US, Ukraine and Russia will all meet to try and put an end to this war once and for all. The Sunday Times. This is pretty big. The Prime Minister to overrule Rachel Reeves and boost cash for defence. Keir Starmer's preparing to overrule his Chancellor and boost defence spending after the dramatic security summit in Munich. To me, in the wake of... We'll talk about this in depth in a second. In the wake of Rachel Reeves' CV scandal, the expenses... this new poll that we just discussed on the front of the Sunday Express, nobody has any faith in her. To me, this is the Prime Minister undermining his Chancellor. But we'll get the thoughts in just a second of the panel. And the Sunday Mirror, a former royal aide who murdered her tycoon lover is now looking after sick pets. Jane Andrews, who was Fergie's personal dresser in the 90s, beat her lover with a cricket bat, and she's now working in an animal shelter. Well, there we go. Talk about rehabilitation. My panel back with me, Linda Jubilee, Peter Blexley and Paul Richards. Peter Blexley, what do you make of Keir Starmer overruling his Chancellor? I mean, to me, that's the beginning of the end, no? Or am I being a bit hyperbolic?
Well, many of us have known, and many of us have said for a long time, that our armed forces need more cash. We've run our forces down to a level which I personally think is unacceptable. And many learned experts in the military field have said that if there were to be a war similar to that being fought between Ukraine and Russia that involved us, then we wouldn't be able to sustain on our capability on the battlefield for very long. So I think we definitely need more money. We also, of course, have that global political icon, whether you love him or hate him, Donald Trump, astride the politics of the world, saying, NATO countries, you've got to plough more money into defence.
So you're going to say David Lammy then, global political icon. Sorry.
So there you have it. I think this is right. We need more money for our armed forces.
I think this is just, it's not necessary. The collateral damage is that the PM is harming Rachel Reeves with this decision now. But the fact of the matter is we have to get defence spending above 2.5%, possibly nearer to 3.5%. Now, at the heart of the Mail on Sunday story is the mothballing of these 2 aircraft carriers. Now, that's not actually dissing the Navy. That's because aircraft carriers have a displacement effect on the whole of the defence budget. They're so big, they're so expensive that they distort the whole budget. I mean, it makes perfect sense almost to move them to one side and to concentrate on what we have to concentrate on now. Because after Munich and after everything that's said there, I think Lord Danner is just absolutely right in what he says. We absolutely have to put the defence budget first.
Paul Richards, why hasn't Rachel Reeves been consulted or even drafted from a comms perspective?
I mean,
this looks a bit.
Just on the Danner thing, I have to say my time in government taught me one thing: that the most effective lobbyists for defence expenditure is the army. They are so good at this, and they've got people
they're
in
always at each other's throats.
They are. There's
All
a
the services.
historic kind of rivalry between the army and the navy.
The army and the navy often talk about binning the air force.
Well,
this
quite.
goes back decades.
Indeed.
Let's just remind viewers what this Mail on Sunday story is. We'll get the front page up. An army chief, Lord Danner, has said the PM is heading for the dustbin of history because he needs to increase defence spending. And senior army commanders, meanwhile, have privately told the Mail on Sunday that the government should mothball the Royal Navy's aircraft carriers, with the money saved diverted into extra land forces. So,
and I bet you in Monday or Tuesday's newspapers there'll be secret sources from the Navy saying that's the stupidest idea ever. What we need is fewer soldiers and we need more, sailors and aircraft carriers.
Well, that'll be irrelevant.
Because this is an argument about funding, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, there's only so much money to go around, but I think it will come to it that at least one aircraft carrier will be mothballed.
I mean, the big picture here is, though, we have to spend more on defence. I mean, Peter's absolutely right. If America is going to start retreating to its borders and withdrawing, from its global responsibilities, which is what looks like is going to be happening, we have to step up, and so do all the other countries of Europe.
And it's not just me saying it. Only this week in Munich, Mark Rutte, head of NATO, said we're going to have to go north of 3%.
Yes.
In all likelihood.
3.5, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Peter, one of our Your Say viewers, one of our loyal viewers, has said, do you want to be the Reform Home Office Minister? If you were ever the Reform Home Office Minister, how would you deal with this security situation and indeed the small boats? What would your approach be?
I have never been so deeply insulted in all my life. Home Office Minister? Why not Home Secretary?
A junior minister? No, I think maybe that's what they meant.
Yeah.
Well, words are important.
They are. I don't know who it was.
Kindly email in again.
It was a while ago.
Get me a promotion, please.
Somebody said it a while ago. Right, if you were the Reform Home Secretary, then how would you deal with all the chaos going on with our borders and defence and Putin and everything else?
Well, Putin wouldn't necessarily be under my brief if I was Home Secretary, but policing most definitely would.
Yes.
And I would have police spending, efficiency, capability very much on my radar. I would like to see far less wastage in terms of inefficiency, dare I say it, DEI wokery, pulling the strings of our police service. And I would like them to get back to being what the public wants from its police service, a service that patrols the streets, detects and deters criminals, and when crime does occur, they investigate it promptly, professionally, and hopefully lock up bad people.
Yeah, here. Why not? I mean, it sounds like common sense. I mean, would you, in all seriousness, would you ever consider a job in government? I mean, say Reform one power in 5 years, and they came to you and said, Peter Bleksley, we love your tough talking on GBNews. You've got lots of fans. Would you ever consider it?
There are so many skeletons in my cupboard. Well, actually, I've laid them bare through my books and broadcasting in recent years. But still, there would be certain elements of the media that would have a field day picking up on my indiscretions of the past. And I'm not sure that I will want to lay myself bare to that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
But who knows? Well, who knows? Never say never.
We dare roam around in your closet then, Peter.